Day 8 of Bibliotherapy, the healing power of reading. As always, hydrate the vocal cords if you're reading aloud. And switch on your device for 15 minutes of reading so that you can establish the new habit, 15 minutes a day. Yesterday we ended where we were reading about audio journaling, I think. Audio journaling, how it works. Today, practicing audio journaling allowed me to release the pain I was holding. I was relieved of it and able to move on. Listening back to the voice notes, the older me was paying witness to this pain. I felt safe, as if my feelings were acknowledged and even understood. Listening back to difficult feelings signaled to my brain that I had been heard. I didn't need someone else to hear these or listen to me. I could let go of these feelings. This self-validation was both liberating and healing. I began to grow taller. My shoulders were less slumped. My body relaxed. Psychologically and physiologically, I felt lighter. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was letting myself take up space. Affirmations. Words have always saved me, whether as a form of self-expression or as a way to build self-esteem or reinforce and cultivate a more positive outlook on life. And I think this is why I've found positive affirmations to be such a powerful tool too. By positive affirmations, I mean simple statements such as, I matter. What I'm feeling matters. My presence is valued. I am worthy of unconditional love and affection. I am healing. My needs are important and I must honor them. Positive affirmations, how it works. Positive affirmations are statements used to reinforce positive beliefs or attitudes about oneself, others, or the world. The idea behind using positive affirmations is that by consistently repeating them, they can help to shift one's mindset and cultivate a more positive outlook. A 2013 article by David K. Sherman that consolidates various studies on the use of affirmations found that positive affirmations can reduce the stressful impact of challenges and threats in our lives, and that this can have a long-lasting effect. To use positive affirmations effectively, it's important to choose statements that resonate with you personally and that reflect the type of mindset or attitude you want to cultivate. Some people find it helpful to repeat their affirmations out loud several times a day, while others prefer to write them down or visualize them in their mind. The practice can take time to have a noticeable effect on our self-esteem, mindset, and outlook. So it's important to be patient and use them consistently. I relied on affirmations and audio journaling extensively during my own therapy while training prior to leaving banking. I considered these to be active techniques versus passive ones. Active techniques such as journaling and role-playing require the client's active participation and engagement in the therapeutic process. Passive techniques involve the client being more of a recipient of the therapeutic interventions, such as guided imagery, visualization, or in the case of bibliotherapy, reading without applying any additional bibliotherapeutic techniques. Both active and passive techniques have a place in therapy. In bibliotherapy, I find that active techniques complement the more passive activity of reading, enabling and empowering the participant to get the most out of their reading. Affirmations and audio journaling became lifelines, and I've continued to use both ever since. A few years ago, my husband's job meant that we had to relocate to San Francisco for 2 years. Even after I qualified as a counsellor, I had continued to work in investment banking. On the side, though, I had been slowly developing my bibliotherapy practice, and in 2017, when we moved to San Francisco, I finally felt ready to leave banking and devote myself to bibliotherapy full-time. Initially, I was often alone at home with a very young baby while expecting a second, and there were times when I felt isolated and homesick. But these active techniques saved me again and again by soothing my uncertainty and anxiety. Literary reflective practice. Another active technique I have found helpful for building self-awareness, particularly when it comes to emotions and thoughts and problem solving, is what I call literary reflective practice. So literary reflective practice, how it works. As the name suggests, this approach involves reflecting on what you've read and then using your newfound insights to work out what your needs and goals are. You can then put together an action plan for your personal development, monitoring and measuring your progress in meeting these needs and achieving these goals. Although literary reflective practice shares some similarities with literary journaling, one of the key differences is that it offers a more structured, goal-oriented approach to working through the thoughts and feelings that a text might elicit, whereas journaling is a freer form of expressive writing that can act as a release for pent-up emotion. I see literary reflective practice as an ideal framework for self-improvement and journaling as a perfect for self-expression. Literary reflective practice framework. To engage in literary reflective practice, use the following framework and structures. Select a text, could be a poem, novel, memoir, graphic novel, or any other genre based on a theme or issue that you want to explore further. So refer to chapter 11, selecting a book, for more details on how to select a text. You really do, oops, how do I do this? Here we go. You really do have to get this book. It is just so very good. Reflect on what feelings the characters or story are triggering in you, what insights you might have gained, and any lessons you have taken away from the story. You may also want to discuss the reflections you capture above in a counselling, therapy, or bibliotherapy session, or discuss with a friend or family member to gain different perspectives or insights. Based on these reflections and discussions, identify what you need and what your goals are. Create a plan with action points to achieve these goals. Monitor, measure, and evaluate your progress. So refer to chapter 5, 9, and 10 for more details on how this is used in practice. Again, oh gosh, this is the book. You need to get it. It is just so good. So gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful, welcome emotion that can instantly uplift us. A 2015 study conducted by researchers and neuroscientists at the Brain and Creativity Institute at the University of Southern California concluded that immersing ourselves in other people's stories of expressing gratitude helps us to feel more grateful in our own lives. Refer to Reading Gratitude Narratives, How It Works on page 76 of this book for more details of the study. I maintain a weekly gratitude practice where I reread passages from 3 powerful gratitude narratives. My go-to titles include Little Women, oh, I love that, by Louisa May Alcott, The Choice by Edith Eger, and The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Although each of these books spans different genres and periods of history, they all reiterate to me the power of gratitude in helping to find hope and joy, even in the midst of great adversity. Reading about people who are able to be thankful and continue living despite extreme adversity helps me to feel less alone and encourages me to be more thankful for all the things that I've taken for granted in my own life. In a second study conducted in 2021, a group of female participants were asked to engage in a regular gratitude practice that involved writing about the people in their lives whom they were grateful towards. Images of the participants' brain activity after engaging in the writing exercise showed a reduction of anxiety in the amygdala, the part of our brain that responds to fear and anxiety. The results of the study suggested that practicing gratitude can activate neural pathways associated with reward, pleasure, and positive emotions, and in turn, these pathways dampen the activity of the amygdala, leading to a decrease in fear-related responses. Researchers also took blood samples to assess for inflammatory markers, noting an overall reduction of inflammation in the body, and measured the women's stress and anxiety levels, which decreased after writing. These findings strongly suggest that a gratitude practice can be hugely beneficial to our own mental health and well-being. Reading gratitude narratives, how it works. Participants in the 2015 Brain and Creativity Institute study were asked to watch a series of short documentaries that depicted the stories of Holocaust survivors. They were then invited to read statements that would encourage them to imagine what their experience as Holocaust survivors who had received life-saving assistance from a Good Samaritan would look like. For example, you have been sick for weeks. A prisoner who is a doctor finds medicine and saves your life. To test the power of gratitude, scientists used fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, to capture scans of the participants' brain activity in order to gauge their reactions to the documentaries and subsequent statements. The fMRI images showed us that when the participants imagined an act of kindness from a Good Samaritan, the regions of their brains associated with feeling gratitude lit up, as if they had actually experienced the gesture. This suggests that emphasizing with another's experience, in this case it was through the medium of film, but the same principle can be observed when reading, can elicit in us real feelings of gratitude. To engage in this practice, select gratitude narratives or stories that speak to you and read these as regularly as you can. This could be weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, depending on what works for you. It might also be helpful to keep an emergency to be read list for when you're feeling low or sad. Now see pages 234 to 293 for reading prescriptions. So again, that is this book. Get it. Grief and poetry. Our stay in San Francisco came to an end 8 months before COVID-19 struck, and we returned to London permanently. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, my paternal grandmother, who still lived in Kenya, passed away. Only 3 years earlier, I had lost my maternal grandmother, and now I was faced with another devastating loss, one that felt particularly acute. Despite our ambivalent relationship when I was a young child, my grandmothers had become incredibly important figures in my life, and as an adult, I was very close to both of them. They had inspired in me a love of literature and language, as they devotedly read Gujarati newspapers, books, and magazines. My memories of Dadima, my paternal grandmother, and Nanima, my maternal grandmother, will remain precious keepsakes. Their deaths triggered a huge sense of loss and reminded me that life is short. I needed a way to protect my grief, and as always, I turned to reading psychotherapist Megan Devine's It's Okay That You're Not Okay. It guided me through my grief, showing me that it's possible for our loved ones to live on in us. If we look closely, we can see traces of them in everything that we do, in the ways we eat, live, think, and write. My grief demanded a release, and so I gave a voice to my pain through poetry. Memories. The memories have come to an end with each passing day. They hold more significance, like antiques, changing with time, losing their accuracy, their value and meaning overwhelming. We begin to remember them differently, molding them in our minds, longing for those moments that bore the memory, nostalgia, blindsiding us. We begin to cherish them in a different way to perhaps how it really was. They find permanence in the geography of our minds, like fault lines, reminding us of our loss, but also of our admiration for a person, a time, and a moment that is no more. I have found writing poetry hugely cathartic, as it allowed me to make sense of my feelings on a given day, which is also why it's a particularly useful tool for processing grief. See you all tomorrow.